Hi, my name is Elizabeth Carroll, although I usually go by Beth when I'm not writing. And I have written a young adult fantasy fiction novel series of 4 books, about age 12 on. Yeah,
Okay.
can do it. I've had kids read at age 12 and 13 read it, and they tell me they really like it. So that's good.
Fantastic. That's awesome. And then how did you get into writing?
Oh my goodness. I remember back in the 6th grade, I wrote poems. We had to write poetry for our English classes back then. And I wrote 2 poems, and my English teacher, Mr. Kittrell, told me that I had to uh, give them to our school newspaper for publication. And I did. And I just remember I got a lot of attention from that, even though I'm not really a poet. I don't really consider myself a poet. I, I did get a lot of attention from that. And it kind of, as a kid, you like attention. You like the pats on the back. You like people praising you. And yeah, so I liked that. And I started the following summer after my 7th grade year writing stories. And I have to just say that my sister was a big part of that, because she was a really good audience. She's 3 years younger than me. And so everything I wrote that summer was gold in her eyes. And so that kind of pushed me to keep writing, keep going, mainly for her. And then I figured I just like writing. So,
Awesome.
I'm always up in my head anyway. So this way I could kind of, bring the little people in my head down onto paper and play with them a little bit. So
Yeah, bring it all to life.
yes,
Yes, I'm a
which
big
is
believer in
fun.
imagination is the creation of everything. So,
Absolutely. I totally am into that. And I think there's no bounds to your imagination. If you can dream it up, then you can do something with it. And
absolutely, it's possible.
I think that's
Yeah.
where a lot of our best stuff comes from. It's from the dreamers.
And pushing the boundaries.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just, rules are good, but it's also good to step outside the rule box and do your own thing.
Mm.
'Cause
We live in a
I
society
think,
now where it's very flexible with independent authors being able to really do what they want and have that flexibility and control over just how far you want to push things and meld things together. So it's just,
right.
it's a fantastic time for people who want to write.
It really is. I think the changes in the publishing world have made it possible for more people to explore the writer in them. Whereas, traditional publication, you get a lot of rejection, and that could tend to shut people down.
Yeah.
But, I totally advocate self-publishing, being an indie author, because that's what I am. And it has allowed me to follow my dream of writing and publishing books.
Woohoo to
And
you.
yay, I know.
So then how long has it taken you to sort of start with that, first little bit of creation to then complete that first draft? Can you remember that process?
I actually, The Secret Keeper here, this one, the very first book in the series, I started writing when I was in the 8th grade. So, you can just sort of imagine that I was writing in my science class instead of we did a lot of seat work back then, not like education today that's more hands-on and involved. This was more about open up your book, read the chapter, and answer the questions. So I remember sitting there with my notebook, flipped up like kids do, and writing my story underneath my notebook. And anytime the teacher walked by, putting my notebook back down and answering the question. I remember doing that. But it's a good thing I was a good student, because it kept me out of trouble, with my parents and with my teachers. But I actually wrote the first draft of The Secret Keeper back in the 8th grade.
Wow,
And
that's amazing.
it's nothing like what made it into book form. It went through a lot of revisions and a lot of changes, but I have been writing for that long. And interestingly enough, The Secret Keeper came out 11 years ago. Exactly, it was like 1 month after the birth of my son. So I always remember when my first book was published because it correlated with the birth of my son, who was born in 2009 in March, and then the Secret Keeper came out in April of that year. So that was a very exciting spring for me. A lot of stuff, a lot of changes.
Yeah, I'm impressed though to do that like with the newborn. That's quite something.
Right. I'm glad that all the legwork, the heavy stuff was done before he came along.
Oh yeah.
I sort of had it at the publishers prior, before he was born, and then it was finished in April. So that was really exciting.
Yeah. And did you find that process was very similar to the other two books that you've written, or is it changed in the way that the things that you know and understand now that may be different from when you wrote your first book and published it?
I kind of know now what to expect in the whole process. So that part is different. When I did The Secret Keeper, I really didn't know what I was doing. It was just sort of, learn as you go kind of thing. And with the other books in the series, I understood the process more. I knew kind of how long to allow for certain, like how long is it going to take me to do the final revisions. I know now how long it's going to take me. It's probably going to take me about 4 months to get the manuscripts just right. With those final set of revisions, and it's going to take us about 2 or 3 weeks to get the cover straight. So I learned, and now I can kind of plan when I get the book ready for publication. Okay, so if it's say March, I know that probably around July the book will be in book form. It will be out and available, ready for people to read. So that's helpful, because before it was just like, okay, this seems to be taking a really long time to do, but it's not. It's really not, because there's so much to do from the getting the manuscript finished to getting it in published form. So you can kind of stagger stuff out that way.
Absolutely. And what are the few tips for writers that you could give them who are just starting out?
Right. Don't, it's very easy to get hung up on a scene or a chapter, or this just doesn't write. And so like my writer friends, we always tell each other, keep pushing, finish the first draft, finish the short story, finish it, and then worry about going back and fixing the problem spots. Just getting that first draft done is very important, because you can get hung up. I did with my last book, with The Lost Guardian, which completes the series. I got hung up on the beginning, and I got stuck on the beginning, and for about a year I could not get the beginning the way that I liked it, the way that it needed to be. And it was one of those weird situations where I really couldn't go forward with the story because I didn't have the right tone at the beginning. So the rest of the story was kind of crumbling, and it was just the most frustrating thing. And I finally just said, okay, I'm going to push through the pain. If you're an athlete and you play soccer. Is it called soccer in Australia? I know it's football in Europe, but it's soccer. If you play soccer and you get hurt, your coach tells you just push through the pain. It's the same thing with writing. You got to push through and finish the first draft, and then you can worry about fixing